But when I do, in the rare cases that I do, I have to sit and explain to them and say, okay, look, when we sit down and go through this, we're not going to focus on your abuser. We're not going to focus on, the things that happened to you as a kid, as far as who did it. We're not going to focus on that. The only thing we're going to focus on is you, your health, gaining your freedom again, learning to love yourself unconditionally like you did when you were a child. But I have to warn you that in the process of that, the people that are feeding off of you are going to start getting uncomfortable being around you because they're going to start starving. And they're either going to do one of two things. They're either going to immediately jump ship, or they're going to turn up the abuse on you.
Mm-hmm. They're going to start to make you believe that you're crazy.
Right, absolutely.
Gaslighting, as we call it today, right?
Yeah, there's gaslight. And I'll be honest with you, there's a lot of these buzzwords that run around that I think way too overused. And I think some of them, actually hold people into the victimhood that they end up like cherishing. One of the things I've seen is people start to, they call it self-help or whatever, and they think they're in the form of self-mastery. But what they end up doing, all they end up doing is talking about all the abuse they've been through. And they just talk about the abuse like it's really a part of them, and they own it. It becomes a part of their whole identity. And so they refuse to let it go because they don't really know who they are without that. Like, who the hell am I going to be? What decisions am I going to make? How am I going to relate to other people without being able to say, I'm a victim, I'm a victim, I'm a victim?
And I think that's interesting too, because when I talk about this, one of the things that I am always concerned about is, are people going to think that I think I was a victim? You know what? I do not have a victim mentality. I believe that everything happened to me because it was supposed to. I'm actually grateful that it happened to me and not somebody else that couldn't handle it with the people that abused me. Mm-hmm. And that I speak out about it because I want people to realize that they're not alone, that you can survive this, you can let it go, and you can move forward with your life as long as you make the choice to do so.
Yeah, you can even thrive eventually.
You can thrive. And I speak out about these things. I wrote the book because of this and all of these different things. And I speak out on platforms like this about it, not because I want to be the Me Too girl. Right? Just like I know you don't want to be the Me Too guy, even though they don't have that out there right now, right?
Don't let me go off about that movement.
But, for me, it's, you know what? There's a lot of us that have been abused in our life. And if you haven't, thank God for that. But if you have, let's all band together and figure out how to survive it and how to thrive it and not be a victim of it anymore or have control over our life because of it.
Oh my God, stop competing for the biggest victim award. I mean,
it drives me crazy.
Because you have people, whatever, scale of 1 to 10, they were abused at a 1. Well, that doesn't mean their abuse is any less valuable as the person who was abused at a 10. But the people at the 10 think, I'm at the top, I'm the most abused person, I'm the most abused culture, I'm the most abused gender, I'm the most abused blah, 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 blah. And they compete for it, and you don't solve anything. Instead, you put down everyone else that's been through abuse who's not as abused as you. And it's
that drives me crazy. People ask me all the time, they're like, oh my gosh, you endured such extreme abuses in your childhood. And I'm like, you know what? My abuse, yes, it happened, but I don't see it any greater than anybody else because how I handled it is how I handled it. Somebody may have a level 1 abuse, but it was absolutely devastating to them. Doesn't make them any less abused than me, or maybe there was somebody that was far greater abused than me. And they survived it and they're thriving it and good for them. And they're not going to look at me like my abuse was so much less than theirs.
Right.
And I think that's where we have to take a stand as people and realize it doesn't matter what level. What matters is, number one, it happened. And what are you going to do about it for yourself?
Yeah, one of the craziest things that we've heard said over and over and over again growing up is, what are you upset about? Somebody else has it worse than you.
Right.
You're starving kids in China, eat your meals.
Which is true in most situations. It doesn't matter how bad my situation is or was at the time. There is somebody out there who had a far worse situation than I did.
Right. But it just, the thing is those are people trying to devalue what you went through. And again, it's not about you shouting louder and becoming,
Right.
the more the victim and competing with everyone else. But it's almost, and I love it because if you flip it around, it sounds even more ridiculous. But we hear all the time again, what are you upset about? There's people that have it worse than you. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That would be like you being happy and someone saying, why are you happy? There's people that have it better than you. It sounds so ridiculous when you say it that
Sounds
way.
so ridiculous.
But for some reason, we accept it when you say, why are you upset? There's people that have it worse than you. No, your journey is so individual, and we are so, I could go, we get so focused on comparative traumas and comparative lives and comparative everything that we just devalue ourselves and push it away and go, oh, I guess I have no reason to be upset, or maybe this shouldn't be affecting me. And we pretend like it doesn't, and we never fully heal from it. And we don't support each other in it.
I agree with that. Definitely. So I do want to talk about a couple of different things here. So I'd like to kind of switch directions a little bit. For those of you that are out there and you are in a relationship with somebody that is an addict, I don't care if it's a sex addict, I don't care if it's drugs, I don't care if it's alcohol, I don't care what it is. One thing that I want you guys to understand, and it's something that I had to come to terms with myself, is this: their addiction is their total focus. They're going to do whatever it takes to get you to a place where you let them do whatever they want to do, because all they want is their fix from whatever that addiction
Their
is.
next high. Yep.
It doesn't matter what it is. It has nothing to do with you. Abuse comes out with those people where, and I've been in the middle of it, okay, where, words were said to me to make the addict feel better. The bottom line is this: they're going to do whatever they're going to do. You need to make a choice for you. You are not crazy. This is really happening. You are not alone, and there is a way out of this. So choose the way out of it.
Yeah, and true healthy relationships are not really dependent on each other. They're interdependent of each other. We're supposed to go through 3 phases of relationships: total dependence when we're born as children. We're totally dependent on everyone. Mm-hmm. Learning to become independent, which we start trying to do up into our teenage years. And then the choice of interdependency with someone else. But that doesn't mean losing yourself. I have a great story, if you don't mind. I don't know which way we're going with this, but this is some of the best marriage advice I've ever had that goes along with truly interdependent. So back when I did songwriting in Nashville, I had a couple great mentors. One of them, when we get together to songwrite, you usually bring a lot of the stuff that you're working on. You tell the story behind it and say, okay, this, here's the hook that I have, whatever. I've got a chorus and a couple verses, but I'm trying to finish it. But here's the story behind it. Here's the vibe that I'm going for. And then you just kind of help each other write. So 2 of my big mentors, one of them happened to be the mentor of one of my mentors. All of us were together. And one of them was talking about how when he was a huge songwriter before he even recorded an album, but had amazing voice. Warner Brothers signed him. First album went double platinum. And he was on the road. He had 13 years of marriage, very solid Christian marriage where he loved his wife and she loved him. And within the first year, he was on the road 10 months out of the 12. And I'm talking like he'd be gone for 3 weeks, home for a day, gone for 2 weeks, home for 2 days. And it was, it amounted to, he was gone 10 months out of the 12 promoting this album. And he hit a point where the D word was mentioned between him and his wife, not out of anger, but just out of, baby, I don't know who you are anymore. Her saying that to him and him saying that to her and going, what are we doing? Mm-hmm. So he went to this other guy who was one of his mentors, who is a giant in the industry and had been married for 50 some odd years. He was one of Elvis's best friends, married his high school sweetheart and whatnot. So my one friend went to him and said, I don't know how the hell you've stayed married to the same person, to the same wife for 50 years. Okay. At the time I knew him, he had been married for over 60 years. And he goes, I haven't actually. Michael, I've been married for, I said, I'm sorry, I've had like 7 wives. And he goes, that's crap. I've known you for 20 years. You've been married for 50 years to the same woman. He goes, no, I haven't. I absolutely have not. You've got me mistaken for someone else. And he goes, no, seriously, I need your help here. I'm about to lose my marriage. Like, where did this come from? Like, what do you mean you've had 7 wives? And then he took a step back and went, all right, what are you trying to teach me here? And he goes, look, a good woman, about every 6 to 7 years, will become an entirely different woman. She'll be constantly working on herself, trying to change. Your job as her husband is to edify her to become the best her that she wants to be. I've been to the altar once, but I've had at least 7 wives. And he goes, and if you can find a woman who can do the same thing back for you to edify you to be the best you that you want to be, you guys will have a marriage for the eternities. Mm-hmm. And most of the time, relationships become negotiations because of our belief system. We get into them and go, okay, your book of agreements is real similar to mine. You see husband and wife the same way I see husband and wife. And so we're going to go ahead and try and make this work. And then after you get together, it becomes a negotiation through that instead of, hey, who do you want to be and how do I edify you to become that? Because his advice was, if you do that and keep exploring the new person that person's becoming, you'll never stop finding reasons to fall in love. You'll never hit that humdrum version of let's just, watch whatever, Wheel of Fortune and eat TV dinners and then go to bed at 5:30 in the evening and repeat it till we die. Absolutely.
That's only good if you're having sex, but yeah.
Yeah, but those people don't. They just stop. They just kind of, and they go to bed. They wake up at 3 a.m. and do it all over again.
Right.
So yeah, best advice. Interdependent relationships are the best kind to create. It's not about making that person into who you want them to be, which is something that abused people, we tend to be the worst at. We try to make that person, especially, so there's like these phases of self-mastery. There's self-mastery in the beginning where you like start discovering things and you get excited and whatnot, and you feel kind of born again. And then there comes the part of self-mastery where you're actually applying it and it starts becoming wisdom and you start really learning what's going on. And it's kind of in those two phases that you just want to share it with everybody. And you're kind of at high risk for actually falling back into the same old patterns and abusive people because you just want to fix them. Hey, I got knowledge, I got stuff. It'll help you. It helped me.
I want to talk to you about it. I want to share it with you. I want to help you. Right? Yeah. I agree with that. I totally agree with that. And I think there's another aspect too, and that is, and this is going to be hard for some of our viewers to actually accept. Okay, so I'm going to prepare you guys right now. I was not prepared to accept this when somebody said it to me. Years ago, I had a friend in Florida who said to me, Tina, you are addicted to drama in your life. And so because of that, you seek it out. It finds you because you're looking for it.
There's a lot of people that don't want to admit that.
I know. And I was angry. I was like, what are you talking about? You don't know me at all. And then one day I was sitting there looking at my life as a whole and thinking to myself, oh my goodness, I seek drama in my life because it's exciting and interesting and it makes my life more interesting. And I am looking for this. I am attracting these types of people into my life. And if I want it to stop, I'm the person who has to make it stop. And I did. I cut a ton of people out of my life.
People collect people nowadays.
Oh yeah, I used to collect people. I collected the broken. I had a whole collection of broken people around me all the time. My home was filled with broken people every weekend. And my kids actually looked at me and said, Mom, you collect broken people, and I think we need to start collecting animals.
Your kids said that to you?
Mm-hmm.
High five to the kids.
Yeah, they did. They did. My girls are so smart when it comes to that kind of stuff. But it was my oldest daughter who was like, Mom, you're collecting broken people. And I think that we need to start collecting animals.
That aware.
Yeah. Well, and she's always been like super aware and more aware than most at a young age. And it was a realization for me. And that's when I looked back on that relationship the year prior that this friend of mine had with me, where we were no longer friends at that point. And she literally, I was a person that she had to cut out of her life because she didn't want the drama that I was attracting in my life. I went through years of that. I also went through years of being very defensive because of the first 12 years of marriage that I had and always being on the defense. He would do this thing, and I'm sure other people experience